I'd like
Hello,
to.
everybody. It's the
Hey,
Squeegee
pals.
Live podcast we're doing here. We're here with Michael Draper. How are you, Michael?
Hey, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for
Appreciate it.
coming on. You don't. This is like me. You're like on me and Mark's Hall of Fame list. Like, guys, we got to
Yeah.
get on the show before we die. And you just now me and Mark can die and everything's
Well, you guys are still alive. Good. We're good.
Right. See,
Last
unfortunately,
dude.
Michael, there's no in between. We either love you or you're dirt. You know what I'm saying? So we love you. So
Yeah.
Hey, it's nice to be on that end.
right.
Right.
It's a tough crowd if you're not on that end. So.
exactly.
I've been on both, so yeah.
There you
You
go.
guys go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. I need to share this around. I don't know
Okay.
if Jacob's doing it or not.
So Mike, let's back up because I know you were involved in American Window Cleaner magazine years ago. I know. Were you originally a window cleaner? Give us some history on Michael Draper.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I started in the window cleaning business when I was 16 years old. We was in central Illinois here, where I still live. In high school, a friend of mine's dad had a company, and you may know him. He's around the industry still, but Andrew Snyder. And yeah, so Andrew's dad, Andrew and we were high school buddies, and we worked for his dad in the summer, and that we did a lot of route work at the time. It was back in the day where you got sent out and you went out and did $1,000 worth of route work. You come back, they peeled you off 30%,
Yep.
and everybody went their separate ways. But we did that for through high school, and then Andy was kind of brought up under the old school mentality, window cleaner mentality that. Kind of way back in the days of New York and all that stuff, that you don't start a business where you were trained. And so he wouldn't start with when his dad was around, but he wanted to go do his own thing. So he went up to the Quad Cities, built a business up there. And it was about 6 to 8 months, I guess, after he left his dad, he called me and said, "Hey, man, why don't you come up here, leave my dad, come up here and help me get this thing going." So I did. And so I'll tell you guys, at the time, window cleaning was the furthest thing from what I was going to do in life. All right. I'm like 19, 20 years old at the time, window cleaning.
Right.
I got plans, right? This isn't going to be a career.
So window cleaning through high school was pocket money for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were doing pretty well for two stupid kids. I mean,
Yeah.
His dad didn't care anything about residential.
Uh-huh.
And so these business owners that we were doing, they would oftentimes ask, "Hey, can you come do our house?" And Andy and I are both, "Yeah, man, we're coming." So we're pulling down pretty good money on the weekends for two stupid kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but so yeah, then I was going to go do some other things, and I did, and certainly I've done some other interviews before. We had some failures in business, but in 2000. Moved to Bloomington, Illinois, and where I live now, and just seen a very service-rich environment. So I started my own company at that point in time, and I tell you, it was a scary time because I was really timid. Like I said, we had some failures, and failures bad enough that right down the tubes.
Right.
And some other business adventures, not window cleaning, but I was scared, man. I was scared to get back in, be a business owner, and I had a job, I had a family, and I finally convinced my wife to. I actually didn't take much convince. She knew I was miserable at my job, and I told her I had a little business. I was doing it on Thursdays, window cleaning on Thursdays, and
Right.
I said, "I think I can make this roll if I do it full time."
And this was mostly, obviously, storefront, ground level, maybe some houses.
Yeah, at that point in time, houses, storefronts, and some lift work type stuff, maybe mid-rise type stuff with lifts.
Yeah.
And she told me to quit my job, so I did.
Type stuff, maybe mid-rise type stuff with
And it was it was just a point where I didn't have a choice to fail. I had kids at home. I had about $5,000 in the bank. I thought that was enough. It wasn't close.
Right.
And I just went out and made it happen. But I built it to about $1 million company. And then in 2014, by that time we were doing everything. We were doing high-rise work. We were doing mid-rise. We were kind of the bigger company here in Central Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And but in 2014, a company came along, wanted to buy us out, and we were happy to let them write the check, and did pretty well in that. And so then that was kind of where, yeah, I think it was a couple years later. I did a couple other things, did some glass restoration, and then finally happened along the AWC magazine.
Okay.
So Norm had it at the time, and he ran his own ad in his own magazine, said it was for sale.
Now, did he actually start the magazine, or how many owners have been through that?
No, there was another one, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the original.
Yeah, names aren't important. It's just kind of the timeline.
The original owner was from out in California, and Norm bought it from him.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just thought, well, what the heck? I don't have anything going on. I know
I'm going to be a publisher now. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
So let me stop you there, and please, we'll remind you where you were if you're old like me and forget. I have a question, and this is a business question because I've wanted to ask somebody with your knowledge. You said you did $1 million in revenue, okay? Is there a balancing point where to continue to go beyond that $1 million, it starts to tip into the area of the overhead consumes the revenue? Meaning, if you go out and do $300,000 a year, some guys can do that with 2 to 3 employees. That seems like a hell of a profit margin to me, right? Mm-hmm. But when you start getting into 7 figures, you hear of companies with 10, 15, and 20 employees, and I I know someone that does, let's just say $3 million. On a scale, I make twice as much as he does. Now, granted, he could play golf all day. I have to watch. But my point being, at what point, what did you start to say, we're just going to continue to go up, or this is the $1 million 7-figure revenue is where we need to be, and we're profitable, and the business is sustaining itself? Did you see writing on the wall that said this is all it can be, or do you believe that there could be a $10 million window cleaning company aside from anything franchised?
Well, yeah. So that's a lot of question. There's definitely. I mean, I when I had the company towards the end there, I used to say all the time, man, I could, because I was pretty much absentee the last couple years. I worked with Racenstein, and so you would look at it and say, you know what, I made more money maybe when I had 3 or 4 guys and running around. So there's absolutely that. But like you said, the trade-off is I could go do other things. I was absentee, so it was really just kind of a revenue center for me. And I think there are. I mean, I know there are $10 million companies out there.
Yeah.
They're few and far between.
Yeah.
But there's certainly. I mean, the short answer to your question is absolutely. There is a point, tipping point, and there's a point where you have to decide: am I going to, at a $300,000, $400,000, maybe even $500,000 company, you can kind of manage that, and you can kind of keep everything coming to you.
Tight. Yeah.
Yeah, but once you start going above that, then you're losing.
My point is, what I've observed is a lot of those larger, we'll call them companies, and up over the 7-figure threshold, there's a lot of overhead, such as employees that are not producing window cleaning. And I know they're part of the puzzle to make sure the money comes in, to make sure the bids are right, maybe even someone to drive around and, I always said to myself, like, I had a business, not a coach, but he sold businesses, and he told me, I'm going to give you some free advice. Okay, you want to grow this business and make it saleable and really make it into something, you got to stop washing windows. Okay. And I go, well, you've obviously never run a service business, and especially being uneducated like me, a high school diploma, you know what I'm saying? I don't have business degrees. It's learn as I go. And if someone's going to drive around and just write pricing down, that's going to be me. I'm not going to pay someone to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I think as it gets to a point where you have supervisors that are potentially non-working, and estimators, and all these titles, I'm like, all these people are dipping in of these guys that go out and bust their ass 40 hours a week. And it just kind of, because I think small, Mike, that it doesn't always add up,
Hey, the internet is full of guys that, there's a meme out there. I love it. It says, it says, I already know who's fake and who's real. I just play along.
Right. Okay, so let's get back to AWC.
Yeah.
the original owner, and then Norm owned it, and now you come
Yeah,
along.
so there was the original owner, and I'd been a subscriber for years, obviously in the industry and that. And
Yeah.
Norm run the thing. I had sold my business, and it wasn't like a big major acquisition or anything.
Right,
It was just
right.
like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And Norm asked me the same question. He says, "So have you ever published a magazine before?" I'm like,
Right,
"No,
right.
never have."
I've bought a couple magazines, but yeah.
How hard can it be, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. Produced a lot of video content and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Kind of changed the face of it a bit. And then for most things that I get involved with, I mean, safety's been one it's really I'm passionate about. I just love it. But
Yeah.
most of the time, if I'm involved in something, I'm looking to build an investment and turn it right.
Right,
And
right,
so.
right.
I mean, I'm kind of a business guy, but I'm just like you, Mark. Though I'm just a dumb high school kid. I'm not college educated. So
Right. So you put down the bucket, you got rid of the company, or sold the company, I should say, and now you became a publisher. Now, how long did you run the magazine?
I had it right at 3 years.
Okay.
And then Josh Cronin approached me and was like, "Hey, I'd be interested in buying that. I'm looking to kind of do something." And the timing was perfect because I had started Expert Safety Services as well.
Okay.
And it was really like taking off.
Yeah.
And I was getting torn. I just, and I had pushed the magazine to where I thought I'd pushed it to as far as I could take it. I wasn't saying it wasn't more. I was just like, I can't take this any further.
Right. Right.
And so it was good timing, and again, I had a lot of fun with it for a couple of years, and then sold it and made a little profit, and on to the next thing.
Well, I not to interrupt, I think that now that Josh and WCR is I don't know if they're behind the magazine, but since Josh is there and he works with WCR, I will put it that way because I don't want to make misstatements. I think that's a very good fit. Okay, because they're so on the internet, they're so involved in social media, they're so involved in the giveaways and helping our community and our industry, that I think if anyone could take it to a level beyond Michael Draper, it's going to be who's driving it right now. So
100%, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we start Expert Safety Services. What's that like when you go from basically steady income from the magazine, I would assume, right? Making a few bucks here. You sell that, you put some money in the bank. Mike's going to the mailbox and there's no checks. How does that work,
Well, yeah, I mean, Expert was going prior to the sale.
Okay.
But so I mean, I guess there was checks, but Expert was really kind of a, sometimes in business, the timing is right, and I don't ever discount that it was it was kind of the perfect storm. The IWCA, which I was a part of, the I-14 committee had just got disbanded, and so the ANSI standard was going away. Everybody was kind of up in arms about that and like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We don't have this ANSI standard. And this was in November of, let me get my dates straight here. This was in November of 2000. Gosh, my mind just went blank. This has been November 2016.
Okay. Now, not to get you too sidetracked, why did that actually go away? Because I came up, me and you have spoken personally, and you know where I came from and how I was trained. But I was very impressed and excited that somebody was stepping in and taking control and giving us some guidelines, okay, rather than some OSHA guy that probably doesn't know how to tie a knot. So why did that go away?
Yeah, well, with all these things, there's politics, and the politics. There were people on both sides of certain things that the I-14 had in it. The most controversial was the 300-foot rule, and so that they just.
That was no control rope descent equipment over 300 feet, over 30 stories.
Yeah, yeah. It's not the way it actually reads. I always joke and say, if you read it that way, there's RDS work being done over 300 feet every day, all day
Right,
long,
right,
in every
right,
city.
right.
And the standard even now it says unless it's the safer means.
Uh-huh.
So you have to look at both sides of things and see, which at 300 foot, the easiest way to explain it is at 300 foot, you've got a decision to make. Is RDS the safer means? It very well may be because the building's not set up for.
Yeah, the architecture
it's
has
not
a
set
lot to
up
do
or
with
whatever,
it. Yeah,
right?
right.
So that's the easiest way to explain it. At 300 feet, we've got a choice to make. But there was just a lot of infighting, Mark, and it was unfortunate that it went away. Some of these things you have to, on these standards specifically, it's always give and take, and I always hate it when so much work gets put into something like that, and then a bunch of silliness on one sticking point, just ruins the whole thing.
Right. Because we finally had some guidelines, and then they went away.
Yeah.
And those of us that don't necessarily, especially, don't do as much social media, or you don't know what to believe on social media, says, now what are we going to do? Do we just cowboys and do whatever we want?
Yeah.
Can I still wear a sit harness? I mean, what's going on here?
Well, and so this is kind of what was the perfect storm for me was we're all sitting there going, what the heck just happened? This thing got disbanded. And but unbeknownst to anybody, OSHA in the background was working on the general industry standard.
Okay.
And in that January 2018, they released it. And when they did, they had quoted the I-14 standard some 200 and some times.
Okay, so all of the work that went into it was gobbled up. We were kicked to the curb, basically, and now here's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So it kind of took everybody by surprise. Nobody was really expecting it, and then it's like, whoa, it's kind of like the dog that caught the car, right? It's like, wait a minute, it's there. They quoted it, and so if you know anything about the ANSI-OSHA relationship, ANSI just makes voluntary standards, but generally, if OSHA quotes them, it kind of becomes law.
It becomes the rule, yeah.
It becomes the rule.
Okay.
So it was like, oh my goodness, so all the years of work isn't going to go away. Actually, OSHA's quoting it now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, it encompassed more than just high-rise at this point, because now you have the general industry standard. It mentioned residential cleaning. It mentioned ladders. It mentioned all these things together. And so my business mind kind of started kicking in because at the time, I've been a member of the IWCA forever, but they were not in a position, at least initially, to take on the training aspect of not just the high-rise piece, but there was a bigger piece to this now.
Right. Well, now it's residential, it's ladder.
It's residential, it's
every
everything.
aspect of window cleaning. Yeah.
So I started really looking at what training is available, what's out there. Right. And of course, you've got your OSHA 10s and your OSHA 30s. And I've sat through those classes and I'm like, man, this is time of my life I don't get back, because they're so vast, they're so broad that they don't get to focus in on anything.
Right. So you don't really get a lot out of it personally.
Yeah. It's just kind of a general overview of it all. And so I decided that I was going to create a class called OSHA 1910, and we were going to focus on the 5 or 6 subparts of OSHA 1910 that actually pertain to window cleaners and pressure washers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to teach them deep. We're not going to go into this talk to window cleaners about acetylene torches, for goodness sake. We're going to focus in on what we do.
Right.
Well, it was a huge hit. And I mean, I didn't even know how big it would be or come, and it just, it was gobbled up. And so we did really well with that class for a couple years. And we started just to notice too that there wasn't enough training on the high-rise aspect as well. And so we put together a high-rise class, but one of the things I was determined to do was to get the IWCA back involved, because we wanted them to be the certifying body. Mm-hmm. But I was really at odds with the IWCA over some things, specifically the way that they were issuing and doing training. And I just, for years you could go online and you could You could take an online course, take a test, and you were a rope descent specialist.
Right. You get a certification.
It's like, what?
Right.
The guy's never
right.
been on the ropes. You know?
Right.
And so, but I contacted the IWCA. My thinking was in line with George Aguilar's as well. He was kind of pushing the same agenda. And honestly, Jeff Scott was pushing the similar agenda even before George and I was pushing it.
Yeah.
But again, just different politics and, positionings and all this stuff. So and I don't know why, but just at the time, the IWCA was kind of like, okay, you're right. Let's redo this. And so myself and George and Stefan, we all came to the table, and I'm just like, we just were really brutally honest with each other. Like, this isn't right, and this isn't right, and this has got to be, and this has got to be. And we came to this agreement, and it was like, wow. So the IWCA at that point published what we call the IWCA safe or RDS safe practices, and it encompasses a lot of some of the rope access things. Though we're different, it encompassed a lot of the best safe practices from rope access, and it really helped to unify everything. So it's been a great run. I mean, I love it. It's put me in other things now where I do still do the classes, but we developed a software app for safety, and then we do just a ton of consulting at this point for companies. And so it's been a great run. But I'm telling you right now, the timing of all of that, just being in the right place,
right at the right
time, watching all this go down,
right. Well, with the right experience, that time has to be for the right person too.
Well,
right?
that's true. Yeah. That's true. But it definitely, there's no doubt about the timing was just absolutely perfect.
Okay. So you offer, can someone come to you and learn rope access? Is there a training facility, or do you go to them, or what does that entail?
Yeah, so we do a little bit of both. I've got a couple facilities that we work with here in the Midwest. And it just kind of depends on the company. If a company has 3 or 4 guys, let's say, it's probably not going to be economical for me to come to you. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be easier for you to come to me. Mm-hmm. If you've got 30 guys, it's probably easier for me to come to you. Right. So we do both, and we do a hands-on portion. We were doing classroom and hands-on, but last year we videoed the classroom portion and put that online in our app, so that basically what we ask now is you have your guys take the online course, they pass their test, then we'll come out and do hands-on, but we want to spend all day with them on hands-on. We don't want to do any classroom. Yeah, I think you get a lot more out of the hands-on than absolutely. And it's like that with any industry. Yeah. Yep. So, and then, it's just opened up other nice avenues for us. I mean, we recognize that in a lot of safety is kind of this way where in order to become competent, in a lot of different areas, you have to have manufacturers basically stating you're competent. Mm-hmm. And that requires training, from them, and individual training. And OSHA kind of reads that way too. So, Petzl's been a beautiful partner with us, and then we were actually able to become a preferred technical partner for them, which is such an honor. And what that means is that Petzl looks at different areas. They may look at forestry, they may look at arborists, they may look at rope rescue and all these things. And then what they do is they select partners that basically become the experts in those areas. Okay. And so for RDS, Expert Safety Services is one of their technical partners. And so, man, it's really, I mean, so they actually probably listen to what you have to say and then improving a product, or why something is wearing out or hopefully not failing. What would be a good product to promote, obviously through you, and you can have Petzl help design and, get safer equipment out there, right? Yeah, that's part of it. And then also, I mean, it's scrutinizing. They scrutinize us very hard. They audit our trainings. We had to go through 2-day process where we had to set up, a training, have them come in, audit the whole training, making sure that our technical knowledge and what we're saying is correct.
Right.
And we're not, just out there willy-nilly and stuff.
So,
So quite a scrutinized process, really.
so correct me if I'm wrong, but Petzl probably started out, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, for rock climbers, cave guys dropping into caves and whatnot. And now they see that they have a whole nother market. So you are an integral puzzle with getting this to market and obviously recommending certain things they have and potentially or new products that are coming out, and you can give your view on that. Because look, I'm old school, Mike, but we've had this discussion and we've talked about on the podcast, to get a guy to train that's been on a rack and bar for 20 years and you're going to give him an IT or another kind of descender, he doesn't want anything to do with it. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, even though it's safer, better, faster, more efficient, or less cumbersome, to get these guys to change the way they do things. So I have another question for you. If you go to a company, let's say have 20 employees, do you ever just look back and see what these guys are doing and go, yeah, we need a lot of work here because these cowboys are not going to go home at the end of the day with the way they're doing this?
Yeah. So the one very humbling thing about, being a safety trainer is it's very odd that you will get, 100% results just because you say something, right? Like you said, and the mentality, Mark, and it's not all wrong. At the core of it, I don't disagree with this. Like, hey, I've done this for 30 years.
Right.
And I'm still going home at night.
Right.
So I must be doing something right.
Right.
So I don't disagree with that, and I get it. And I try to play in the avenue of safe, more safe, and most safe.
Right.
My job is to train most safe.
Right.
And so, but it takes a while. I mean, there's companies that I've been working with now for 3.5 years, where just this year, they're like, yeah, I can walk in their shop. I'm like, yes.
Now you got it.
I don't have a coronary. I'm like, okay, everything's good.
Right. We're going in the right direction here.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it takes time. It takes time to affect change, and that's I've talked with some other younger guys that are getting into safety, and like, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I'm like, chill out just a little bit. It's not going to happen like that. You're going to have to, and even some will like, well, we need to correct this on Facebook. You need to correct this, and you need to tell them. And I'm like, yeah, it don't work like that.
You're not going to debate with the people on Facebook.
Just chill out and affect change where you can.
Okay, so next question is going to be, I remember when I was learning, and these numbers all come back from the 90s, from the early 90s to mid 90s. There was, on average, and sitting through Stefan's class multiple times, who I have a lot of respect for as well, it used to be 5 to 7, maybe 10 deaths a year. Generally, 90% of the time or more, it's not equipment failure. It's something they did wrong, right? So since people like you and Jeffrey Scott and IWCA teaming up and getting all this stuff together, and I know there's probably more high-rise guys now than there was in the 90s. I think that's a very safe bet. Has the number dropped?
Yes. And I do credit that to, guys like, Jeff Scott and George, myself, the IWCA pushing the agenda. Unfortunately, we had the number down to about 1 to 2.
Wow.
For the last several years. But unfortunately, this last year it spiked to 5.
Uh-huh.
And a couple of those weren't legit RDS accidents. They were suspended scaffolding and that. They kind of got grouped into it. It doesn't matter. A guy's gone, a guy's gone.
Right.
And so obviously there's more work to do. We were all, for as much effort, I put a lot of miles on a plane. I'm training. I know the other guys are doing the same, training. And so when you have kind of that retraction in those statistics, it just doesn't feel good. It kind of feels like your efforts are So you try to just bring that to light, try to, reason with guys, hey, there are people that die out there. And so we're not here preaching, because we think we're better or whatever. I truly value people's life. I don't like reading those stories at all.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to read them about any companies that I have under my, jurisdiction, so to speak. But I don't like hearing it at all. I don't,
Right.
I genuinely love our industry, and I love the people in it. I don't want to hear about deaths in it.
Yeah. So now, someone comes to you and you put them through the full training. Is there? This is a hard word for me to say. Accreditation, like number one, is there anything like Safe Driver for insurance to help out the overhead in the company? Number one, and number two, showing this to property managers and building managers that might feel, well, your price is still 15% higher than what we're used to, but if you have something to say, well, here's why. All these guys are trained, they go to continuing education. That seems to be now more hold value to a property manager, building owner, or anything like that.
Yeah, it absolutely, and it's gaining traction. SPRAT, Rope Access Organization, they had done a really nice job of going out and making sure that their certifications was part of the request for proposal process, the RFP process. And so you get on a building, like, you got to be SPRAT certified. And at this point, the IWCA is doing a nice job as well of pushing their agenda into BOMA and some of these other IFMA and some of these other ones, so that you're just hearing that more and more. Do you have certifications? The guys have certifications.
Right.
Specifically with high rise, it's hey, that's dangerous work, and then the other person that's driving that is insurance.
Yeah.
Right? The insurance companies are driving that because they're wanting to know that there's training involved, and that there's people that have some sort of competency.
Right.
When on the work that they're doing. So
Right.
Absolutely, it's getting
Right.
bigger too. Getting bigger.
I think honestly,
I welcome it. I love it.
It might not be within our time of being involved in this, especially I'm referring to you. I'm just a window cleaner, but I think it might actually grow to a time if they can squeeze into BOMA hard enough where they're only going to allow SPRAT certified people on a building, because all it takes is one accident at a building to where they open their eyes. Like when they mandated a few years ago, all tiebacks got to be checked this frequently. We get a load deflection and a report sent to the window cleaning company, and we make the decision, if it's red tagged or not. My point being, it's going to push a lot of the cowboys to the side and make the industry completely safer, and at the same time, hopefully make it affordable insurance-wise and everything else. But Mike, let's be real. In this world, most building managers and property owners, they like that stuff, and a good percentage will latch on to only using those accredited employees, but the rest of them are going to be, bottom line, what's this going to cost?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I used to be, I was joking when we first come on, getting older, and I can remember, 10 years ago, sitting on some committees and just trying to, push the agenda, thinking, at some point before I die, I'm hoping that we see some radical changes, and buildings all have anchors on them and this and that. And I'm getting more and more firmly convinced that, especially as older I get, it's maybe not going to be in my lifetime.
No, I think though you have a good point there, because I have noticed we were involved in. Remember, I spoke to you about that job actually, and that's not done yet. I mean, they might wind up reaching back to you. I'm still pulling for you, yeah. But point being that we were an integral part of having the anchors installed on that building for the lineups and what we felt we needed, which inevitably worked out. And I think that the next area that needs to be looked into is, my experience is, all the new buildings that are going up here, and there's tremendous growth where I am, are having anchors installed in, obviously professionally, into the building as it's being built, which is certainly cheaper than a retrofit, adding anchors. But I think the target needs to go down to the lower rise buildings, the 5 stories, sometimes the 4 stories. Now, with the advent of water fed, there is that competitive way to do something, okay? But I'm just a firm believer, nose to the glass is dead nuts. There's not wondering how it's going to come out. Not that that equipment doesn't do an acceptable or a good job, but I rarely see any buildings 5 stories and less that have anchors in them. I think that's the target that needs to be pushed, that it is an option, that if these guys are going to do it a different method, that they have the opportunity, instead of being creative and trying to AC units and stair rails and all the stuff that we never really say we've done. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I did it. I mean, our back in the 90s, our definition of a good anchor was when you walked up to a stink pipe and kicked it and it didn't move too much. That's a good anchor.
Right. So, I remember sitting in Stefan's class, and he showed a picture of 4 stink pipes within like a 6-foot square. And he said the same exact thing. Most window cleaners, their mentality is, how do I know if it's going to hold me? I kick it. Okay?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't move much, we're going to tie to it. And then, like he said, a lot of guys make that mistake of they'll tie to all 4 of them. That's not a mistake. That's probably better than just one. But when one fails, it's going to take everything with it at the same time, because it's a domino effect.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, one of the things that happened down in your neck of the woods, Mark, was, when they had, it wasn't our industry, but it did waken property managers up quite a bit. It was when that collapse happened down in Miami, right, with the concrete structure.
Right.
That kind of stuff, unfortunately, sometimes reality has to hit before it wakes everybody up to, oh my gosh, some of this compliance stuff is real. That does need to happen. We do need to have anchors. We do need to have that concrete inspected, like we're supposed to.
Right.
And so it kind of wakes up. And South Florida's been kind of it's been kind of a wild west market for a long time.
Yeah.
So hopefully some of that you see in the new buildings and things going in with anchors. And I tell guys all the time, I know how to rig. I can rig and get myself off of most buildings and do it, somewhat safe for just myself. I don't want to take a crew of workers up there. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that we all deserve, as window cleaners, when we go out there, we deserve to go home at night.
Right.
We deserve to be on an anchor that we know is going to hold us.
Right.
And not have to guess.
Right.
And I feel compassionate about that every human life deserves to be on an anchor that they know is going to hold them.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to get on it, don't do it. It's
right.
Right. We read about the paper.
I got a call from, this was 6-8 months ago, maybe a year, a building in Fort Lauderdale that was glass stone, and had the typical silicate issues on the glass. And a couple guys showed up and did some chemical cleanings. I showed up and did my polishing thing. And going back and forth with them, I said they weren't allowed. They didn't have anybody to let me up on the roof. So I just did my sample off of a balcony. They were impressed with it. They called me back. And I said, if chief engineer's not there with keys, don't waste my time. I'll give you a price, but I have to see what's on this roof, because I could tell from the ground it had at least a 20-foot parapet. You know what I'm saying? And because they always like to make these buildings look taller than they actually are. I could tell by the scupper drains the thing was 20 foot, which is a nightmare putting a ladder up. Anyway, long story short, I finally get to the roof. Every single anchor is red flagged. Do not use, I've never seen this, a failed anchor system. But out of 25 anchors, 24 of them had issues. Wow. And I went back down and I said, I kind of see why you didn't want me on the roof. Well, other window cleaners, we've had 3 other guys come out and they've all looked at it and nobody said a word. I said, well, then you can call one of those, because I want nothing to do with this until those are inspected, pull tested, and pass, because if not, you're not getting me on this job. And somebody did it with failed anchors, and and that's the cowboys of the industry. Yep. Window cleaners are not generally educated to go, this isn't so smart, let's just do it.
Yeah. And the guys are out there, and I get it. I understand the whole mentality, making money, and I get it all. I understand the reasonings, but ultimately too, I can't spend, and we kind of joked about this with all the, Facebook, opinions and all this stuff.
Right.
My business, I can't worry about what the Cowboys do.
Right.
I've got to try to work with companies that do want to do the right thing and that have the kind of the attitude that you have, Mark, and want to change, want to be safe, and that's where we try to spend most of our time. So.
Right. I worked for a company that, and this was before a lot of the standards were set forth. We knew what was really needed, to be done. But I remember when I quit working for the company that taught me high rise, and he called me back and he goes, "Look, I'll give you this much for. I know you're working with your father again. I'm cool with that, but I need help on this job." And okay, what's the address? I brought my brother-in-law with me, who was trained by me, and we're both proficient with what we were doing. And when we got there, a mansard roof with barrel tile, no tie-offs because there's nowhere to put tie-offs, no peekaboos, no anything there. And I was like, well, he goes, ask for Skip. He's running the job. He'll show you how we're doing it. Mike, I'm not kidding you. I saw two separate guys tied to doorknobs, 23 stories up. And I saw another guy with a 4x4 across the threshold of a door, tied around a 4x4. Now, a 4x4 is probably easily going to hold 5,000 pounds, but it's just sitting there. Okay, and then another guy had about 300 pounds of counterweight under a window, with the window up, ropes going over. There was plenty of protection carpet and rope guards. And I could see him every time he stopped, the rope, the weights would rise up and just eat the drywall up on the wall. I grabbed my brother-in-law. I said, "Come on, we're out of here." Skipper's like, "Where are you going?" I go, this is not for me. And the office of the guy that I worked for was literally 5 miles away. I go, "We're going in and we're going to tell him why we're not doing this." And I walked in there and I sat down at his desk. And now I could say what I want because I'm not grabbing I was going to get paid for this, but I'm not grabbing a paycheck to support myself. It was extra money, right? I said, "How do you live with yourself? How do you sit here in this office near I-95 and hear an ambulance go by or a fire engine or a police car with the sirens wailing at least every half hour, not wondering, is that one of my guys on the ground?" You know what I'm saying? I go, what I saw isn't how I worked with you, and I'm not interested in doing this. I don't care what you're paying. Okay, it's not safe, and you got a bunch of guys there that they must have a death wish with what they're doing. I said, I walked away, and it was good money, and I needed it, but I was like, nope. Because for me, mentally, if I see it, it doesn't matter how safe I am, I'm done. It's over for me. If I see that,
Yeah. I was on a job site here this week, and somebody thought I was picking on them, and I basically said, I love this safety saying, and it's not mine. Somebody else coined it, and I just love it though. It's basically asking me to overlook a safety infraction is asking me to diminish the value of your life.
Right.
And I just can't do that.
Right.
And so I'm never about picking on anybody or this and that. If I see it, I just say, hey, that this, we had some guys that were rigging kind of incorrectly. They were doing Y deviations and they were deviating off of figure eights. And it's like a figure eight can't work that way. You don't want to do it that way. And they obviously, you get that mentality, but you just try to be nice with the guys and try to teach and educate, and hopefully something sticks.
Right. So where do you see this going, Mike? Because obviously, whatever fulfills Michael Draper's life as far as businesses, because you've done multiple things that you've shared with us, is this going to be your passion for? I mean, obviously you can't predict your future, and obviously you want this to grow and be successful and more successful and go to, everybody strives for another level. Okay, is Michael Draper going to stay doing this for the rest of his working career?
Yeah, I think I can confidently say yes on that. I'm not going to say I wouldn't, do something
entertain
else
the right
have
offer.
Other
understand
things
that.
go.
Yeah.
We developed a safety advocate app, and I think we have 300 or 400 companies on that. We've been approached by others to purchase that, to buy that from us. It creates some nice residual revenues. But I'm just not interested in it. I'm interested in keeping it, and I'm also interested in, there's some things that aren't done.
Okay.
And we're working and developing them on the software side that I'm just really thrilled about, and I'm hoping that we can bring them to market. Inspections for equipment being one, and just an easier way. We're working with scanners, we're working with data matrix tags and things like that to try to bring that to an easier forefront. And so, but I can say that I don't know if I'm quite where I want to be, but I've always had it my goal. I turned 50 this year in June, and my life goal was to kind of shut it down at around 55.
Okay.
And I'm tracking pretty close to that. Still want to do. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna say I wouldn't do trainings. It's something,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna run as hard as I am.
But if
today.
you sell this has to go to somebody with similar experience and passion for what you do. You almost have to look at it as, of course, it's feeding the family, but the wrong person behind the helm, and this is a disaster. In order, obviously, to stay qualified with Petzl and whatever ventures you're involved with, they would have to, you can't just go, hey, Joe Blow is going to take over Expert Safety Services, and here's your point of contact, and have a nice day. It seems to me to be as important that you would pick the right person to fill your shoes.
And it goes a little bit deeper than that. So, my sons are involved with it at this point. We just finished up Petzl Competent Person and Train the Trainer classes here a couple weeks ago. All of them were with me. My daughter is working on the advocate side of things, where she holds the companies that we work with and things like that. We call her a advocate accountability. She's involved in it. So it's really a family business at this point. So I don't see me selling this at all. It's providing for the kids at this point. They're all involved. My youngest son is heavily involved with the sales side of things.
Now, have they ever been involved in window cleaning, or they're just Expert Safety Services?
Yeah, well, they were around it, obviously. They were younger when I had my company, so they get it. They've been at all the shows for years and all that, so they've been around it. But so far as actual cleaners, no.
Yeah.
So, and they, I remember I think it was 2.5 years ago. You might have been there, Mark. I don't know. I think it was in Savannah, and we're set up, and my youngest son, he comes up to me and he's like, I've been in the booth all day, and he goes, nobody wants to talk to me. Everybody just says, I'll wait. I'll come back for mine.
Right.
And I said, well, you got to pay your dues.
Right.
I said, I'm 30 years in, and you're just born.
Well, I will say this. I'm not going to spoil your head, but when I think I probably had met you in Savannah, but when I saw you this last round up in Orlando, I gravitated right over to you. I go, I'm going to get under his skin and have some good conversation with Mike, because he's a man. I love to talk to people and Jeffrey too was so impressive with his knowledge. And I didn't know much about Jeffrey. I only knew what he was doing, and seeing you with your booth and all of the equipment and I knew that this was a man I want to hang out with for a little while and talk to, because it's always great to. It's not that it's free advice, but just to see the man behind what's going on. So I have another question. The last I saw you showed me some, and I've kind of seen different companies coming out with it, these rope climbing pieces of equipment that are battery powered, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And they can take a guy, no offense, Seth, I'm going to use you, that doesn't have control rope descent experience, and he can literally ride this apparatus right from the ground up like a swing stage, but you put your chair on it and you go up and do your thing, whether it's window cleaning or pressure washing. Is that getting traction?
Yeah, they are getting traction. I mean, I wouldn't say the biggest traction is in our industry, but where you have repetitive motion with guys that are climbing, like tower climbers. or a guy that's got to go up a windmill or whatever, they got to climb those stairs all the time. So if they can use power ascenders, and that it just saves the human body, right? They don't have to keep going up and up and up.
Right.
In our industry, where it's really been more the soft washing and power washing industries, because the advantage to them is you guys have it a lot marked down in Florida, where you have some sort of mansard type roof,
Right.
and it's going to be clay tiled, and then a lot of times there'll be a sleeve system outside of that mansard.
Right.
And so the ropes drop down the sleeve. So an RDS or rope access guy, they're going to come out over that mansard and then do a rope to rope transfer underneath, right?
Right.
Well, a soft wash guy can just drop the ropes down through those sleeves, and since the ropes go all the way to the ground, they can hook in at the bottom and use a power ascender, and they can climb up that, and they can.
Yeah, they never have to walk or climb over the edge of a roof, which is that's the hardest part, in my opinion.
I think you're
But
right.
at the same time, those are generally 24 foot apart, the pigeonholes. But again, I can see, and with soft washing, you are spraying a good distance. So
right.
Yeah.
So they've gained some traction that way. I still don't, I don't advise anybody just grabbing one and just using it without some training. I mean, things can still go wrong. And when they go wrong, you're still at height. So
well, I'll tell you my opinion on it, because I've always learned that, I've got guys work for me who go, I'm not riding that swing stage, but give me my rope and my equipment, I'm going over the edge, because let's be real, there's a lot of components to a piece of equipment like that. That can be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a mechanical device, and mechanical devices break.
Right. Now, I think the average high-rise guys, like some of the ones that we've had on here, because this whole month has been high-rise, would probably laugh at a piece of equipment like that, because they've got 10 years on the rope, and they're like, yeah, that's really cool, and it takes a lot of the learning curve, maybe I'm wrong about that, out of this, as far as, not so much rigging, but as far as doing that climb over the roof or doing a transfer or whatnot, and you can take more of the average person and put them in that place.
Yeah, devices like that are always, it's not the 10-year veteran that wants to use a power ascender unless he has the application. It's the soft wash guy that wants to go there.
Yeah.
But he don't have the skill set, but he sees the building. He's like, I need to get there. How do I do it?
Right.
They're the ones that are open.
Guy. Right.
Yeah, they're the ones that are open to that kind of thing.
Right, and he's also going to have the mindset that if there's 10 soft wash guys, 2 of them will do it. Then the rest of them are like, yeah, I'll go clean a roof for $300 and go home.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and I would assume that equipment is going to definitely evolve, because those have been around for quite a while, but I noticed the one that I saw you were involved with was much more compact.
Yeah. Yes, it was the Ronin. And they've come down. They chew the rope a little bit, but they've come down in cost. I mean, I remember when they first come out years ago, you get one, but it was like, I think it was like $12,000. The power seat ascender. I was like, well, you're gonna have some work that's gonna work for that, right? Just shell out that money.
Right.
And but now, I mean, that Ronin I think is down to around $2,400. So that's doable on a good spray truck or something like that. So
yeah, well, you don't want to spend that kind of money. You might as well, buy a swing stage. I mean, I don't know what one of those costs, but my point is, the ROI in South Florida, at least where I am, it's very hard to recoup that. And that's the first thing that has to happen is you've got to pay for the equipment.
Absolutely.
And to have the contracts to follow it.
Yeah.
I remember we were working in a building. They rented a Danka lift that was 120 so odd feet to do light change. We wasn't even window cleaning. We changed light fixtures in a building lobby, and the building manager's like, "You need to get one of these." And I'm like, "That machine is about $150,000 to my knowledge, and you want to pay me $3,500 to wash your windows? I mean, how's that work out?" I go, "I know Disney owns one, but I'm not Disney,
Yeah, you got to be able to recoup the equipment, and all this equipment's gotten expensive through the years. I mean, it's no joke anymore. Equip a guy out for high rise. I mean, you're talking at least $2,000. Just an equipment. That's without ropes or a suspension device or anything like that. So it's all gotten expensive.
So does Expert Safety Services delve into aerial lift safety, or do you leave that to like Sunbelt?
No, we do. We do quite a bit of it actually. So we're trainers for the new MEWP ANSI standards and that. I wouldn't say we travel the country doing that, but generally where we come in on that is this: a company has us, they're going to fly us in, and they're like, hey, can we do RDS training, for 2 days, and then could we do aerial lift on the third day or something like that, right? And since you're coming anyway, can we just knock it all out?
Right.
And so yeah, we do quite a bit of it.
Right. That's wild. I'll tell you one quick story. We did a job that was rigged for swing stage. Swing stage never happened. They took it off the roof. They filled the swimming pool on the roof, so there was no way to set this equipment up because the painters and stucco guys were behind. Long story short, we show up and we're like, where's the swing stage? Oh, it's gone. Well, we go up to the roof and the swimming pool's full of water. It's not full of dirt and plywood and everything with Baker scaffold they had set up for the swing stage. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do now? Mike, I'll tell you what, I rode lifts. I own a lift. I've never had an issue with lifts. Okay, they brought in a 185-foot lift. It came in on a semi-truck. When it spread its legs out, because it narrows down for transport, I want to say it was 20 to 25 foot wide. And that sucker, it knew where you were at every point in time. Now, 185 foot, it wouldn't go out 185 foot. It would only go out on a pendulum type of scale.
Right.
But and as safe and as huge as that piece of equipment was, at 185 foot, which is what it took to do a 19-story construction clean, if it moved a 1/16 of an inch at the base, you were moving 7 to 8 feet. I had a high-rise guy. I'm done. I'm not riding it anymore, especially on that corner where the wind is. Mark, by all means, you can have we were pulling Blue Max off the glass. And I'm like, and we couldn't do it from a chair because it was full of stucco and paint, and the windows were like 4x8. So when you pull the Blue Max off, and it was cooperating, it was coming off, you had a ball this big. Well, what do you do with that? Because you got to drop down and do 17 more stories of windows. So they agreed. I want to say that equipment was, I think they made more than I did. Put it that way. I'm serious when I tell you that lift was like $25,000 a week, and it took us 10 to 15 days to do that job. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, they do move a lot too.
At that height, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but it was an experience.
Lifts are terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of accidents from lifts because I think people just figure anybody can get in there.
It's normally the dudes that ride around with no harness,
right,
driving the lift around, and then they go into a dip or a bump and it ejects them from the basket. That's like
right.
That. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens a bunch. I only know that because my cousin rents lifts. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I see and hear the stories all the time of dudes like coming and renting a lift and then catapulting themselves through the air.
I do think that. They're driving. I've seen the video where the guy's driving it and it's scoped way out like 60 feet, and he goes off a curb and it throws him out of the basket.
Like,
or they drive it over a piece of plywood, not knowing there's a hole there.
Yeah.
And this 40,000-pound piece of equipment goes crashing through the hole, through the plywood.
I saw a guy try to escape the police on a lift on a video on YouTube.
A scissor lift, right?
It's really easy to get into a piece of equipment like that and feel like, oh, I'm fine in this thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know?
Right. No, that's
not understanding the danger.
When's the next Petzl event with your safety services, Draper?
I don't know. It's we had one in the winter, and it was pretty awesome. It was. If you guys ever get a chance to go to Petzl in Salt Lake City, just go. The trip is worth it. The ambiance of being there is so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's as a technical partner, we get access to their technical institute when we want it, but it's so tight. You almost have to book it like 2 years in advance because the other technical partners are running stuff and doing stuff.
Right.
So we're not quite as time heavy as some of the other PTPs that want to be there. Like they want it for all week, and we can go in for a day or even 2 days. So I'm hoping that later this fall we're going to get a couple days on the calendar and have another nice event out there. But I tell you, man, it was so nice. We invited for the one we did. We invited operations managers to that event, and the reason we did is we thought, well, if we could get some operations managers exposed to this, they could go back into their companies and they could work with their guys and hopefully get we'd be able to spread this word of everything quicker.
Right.
And I tell you, it was overwhelming success. The guys that were there, they loved it, and so I'm hoping that we get a chance to do it again this year.
Somebody in the chat had asked that question. There's another question here. Someone would like to know, what are the differences between your classes and what you do and what Jeffrey Scott does? What is the difference? Is there a difference, or is it essentially the same thing? Or
yeah, it's a great question, and I have the most respect for Jeff. When we owned our company, I met Jeff clearback in Clearwater, Florida, and he was very instrumental in teaching our crew at that point in time about tying the chair into the harness, shortening the lanyard, going on the front attachment, all those things that he was preaching. We adapted. And so all the respect in the world. I think at this point, I've not been through Jeff's class. There at a point there when we kind of launched off, it's just kind of, we were friendly competitors, but competitors nonetheless.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, I know that he's a Sprat level 3. So he has that designation that I don't have, by the way. But I think I've spent enough time around Sprat and Petzl and everything else that I think that the premises of what we're teaching is pretty well aligned. I don't think we would disagree on too much.
Right.
He has his style, I have mine. I think they're both great classes. I think you can learn a tremendous amount from either one of them, and just pick one and get some training.
Right, absolutely.
That's the most important thing, really, is just being safe. I mean, it's super dangerous doing rope work anyway. So why not try to be as safe as possible while doing so?
Yeah, and there's too many people. If I wanted to train every window cleaner in the United States, I wouldn't be able to.
Right.
And Jeff wouldn't be able to either, and we could add 20 people and we wouldn't be able to. So
I notice how you and Jeff are kind of alike in the fact that you guys aren't the safety sheriffs. Like, hey, we've got this thing here that we do, and if you want to be safe, you can be safe, or if you want to be cool, you can be cool. It's up to you. But I like that, it's not so much, I mean, it would be nice if everyone was safe, but you can't force it on people either. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah,
I think that's probably something that the internet needs more of. People just like stand and just like, okay, you just do what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
So
it's unfortunate, really, that we, because like I said, I have the utmost respect for Jeff, and when Jeff first started talking about all this stuff, it was just that the timing. Like I said, timing is everything. Sometimes there were a lot of politics, a lot of egos, and just many didn't want to hear Jeff's messaging at the time. But ultimately, he was right. The things that he was trying to get adapted was right. I'm happy that I had a voice in it, and for whatever reason, some people listened to me. I could see from Jeff's standpoint, he might be a little ticked at that because he said I was saying the same thing and nobody wanted to listen.
Right.
But hey, at the end of the day, I don't really care who said it or whatever. We got to try to push the industry forward. But really, I almost look at Jeff as the pioneer of it. He was pioneering it. He was trying to get the message out there, and to our benefit now. It always takes a pioneer, and sometimes the pioneer isn't listened to, but then others get to follow because somebody blazed a trail.
Right.
And that's really the way I look at Jeff.
Doing like living part of a life, doing things kind of like, you know what I mean? Kind of lends credence to what he's trying to tell people to do. That makes things on the up and up. Like, hey, I've done dumb shit before. Let's not do dumb shit anymore. Let's be professionals. Let's be professionals. Let's go home at night. you know, it's still cool. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's cool to be safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, there's you, there's Jeffrey, and I'm gonna say, because I haven't been to your class and I haven't been to Jeffrey's obviously, and I have sat through several of Stefan Bright's classes. He's still involved in IWCA, correct?
He is.
Is that I'm under the assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I've sat through his classes. They're very safety oriented, and he covers a lot in like 2 hours. You know, let's be real. You're not going to be a high-rise guy in 2 hours. However, he's giving you the foundation. I would think you would recommend sitting through his and then potentially yours or Jeffrey's to go beyond, because I don't think he touches on a lot of what, and again, not being to your classes, but I know what you're telling people because I've experienced a lot of the issues that you see. Or does he do private consulting type thing as well? I don't know his background.
Yeah, he does. So the IWCA finally came out with what they call Certified Instructor Program, and some of us that were pioneering this and all that, we're obviously certified instructors. Stefan's class now, he was to credence to him because he had to make some changes in thought process, and so he did so. And really, the class that the IWCA is teaching at this point is very much unified. I mean, Stefan is really, he's doing, the class looks a lot like what I'm teaching. I mean,
okay.
Like I said, myself and George, there's another guy now too, Chris Ayers, he's a certified instructor, and then there's another one. But basically all those classes, that was the whole thing too. You can't have 15 people teaching the class and
right.
It be 15 different opinions.
Right.
Right.
It's got to be, well, safety. You could say safety is safety, but I believe, and again, I don't know Stefan. I've met George a couple times, and George I know has done high-rise work, but you want to get this information from a high-rise guy that's cleaned windows before. I
don't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to lose this point. Is there a standard? Is there an industry standard that you guys all kind of abide by?
Yeah, so there is. So one, we are definitely training to OSHA 1910-27, which is the OSHA standard. And then from the kind of the rope access world, what was kind of interesting too is the ANSI 459 standard came out about it was this last May. And the beautiful thing about it is it described, because there's always been this pitting of rope access versus RDS, rope access versus RDS, and it's a lot of similar stuff. But at any rate, they describe in the ANSI 459 what they call a simple rope access system. And that simple rope access system is when your anchors are basically tied back to no more than a certain degree of deviation, and you're either going straight up or straight down the ropes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're doing. And so we tried to align that training also with the 459 standard for simple rope access systems as well. So OSHA 1910-27 and the ANSI 459. And
these are national standards, correct? But certain states, like I know in New York, you're really not allowed to use a bosun's chair, right? Am I correct about that?
New York City, yeah.
New York City, okay. So, and is there such a thing as, like, I would call them the OSHA police riding around looking for people doing these things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially in your bigger cities. There's citations issued all the time, and they're real, man. I mean, the new this last year they raised their fees again, so it's $13,000 a hit.
Really?
So, and it's not just, that's just a line item. So, like,
now what constitutes a hit aside from not being able to do, let's just say, chair work in New York City? What are potentially, I mean, do they come up to the roof and look for the anchors, the tiebacks,
Yeah, they can. And then any what I always say is they can write a ticket just like a cop, where a cop can pull you over and he can say, okay, Andrew, you were speeding, you weren't wearing your seatbelt, you were
Okay.
drinking.
Now-
So there's 3 citations there, right? So each one of those is $13,000.
Now, and
So how
there's-
does-
is there? Yeah, go ahead. Well, let me just ask
Go
this
ahead.
more thing, and then TJ, is there a day in court, or this is what it is, or you're done?
So the way it works is, they will issue the citation, and then what will happen is you'll get a chance to mitigate the case, right? You'll get a chance to say, and I always joke about this. I say, so basically, you're going to get the ticket, and then you're going to try to prove to them that you're an angel and that this was an isolated incident, and
Right.
you're always safe. Today was just different.
Right.
And for a lot of it, if you do have, and this is one of the things that we work with companies on, is if they have their compliantary pieces in place, if something happens, it generally goes pretty well for them, and they may be able to mitigate that down. But if there's, just like anything else, if it's flagrant, if it's, if they've been told twice or they've already been fined once and then this is the second time, generally they're not very lenient on that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So if both chairs are, they can't. How do they do the work in New York then? If that's against the law, how do they do that?
Yeah, suspended scaffolding or what
So
have you.
that's, in their opinion, safer than.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it. I don't want to state it wrong.
Yeah.
But there's a certain height.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can use them to a certain height. California is the same way. It's a certain height. And again, I don't want to just rattle it because I can't.
Every time you see something crazy on, like window cleaner wise, on the internet, it's always somebody on one of those scaffolds. It's always like, oh my god,
Things blowing around.
the building.
Those just seem so sketchy, man.
That one, like 15 years ago, was so famous. I watched it 5,000 times of that thing just crashing through windows and then buckling and coming back and then going in the other way. It looked like a freight train driving into the building.
Can you imagine being on that thing?
No.
I mean, oh my god.
No. Okay, so now I have another question. And this has gone so many different ways. And quite truthfully, I've heard so many different answers. So I think I'm going to get the correct one from you. With a roller system completely tied back to every kind of code that there is it legal to move horizontally on a building while on a roller system? I'm talking about a portable system that I would bring, not something built into a track system on a building.
Yep. So the answer is this. The manufacturer will determine what can be done with their piece of equipment and what they can't. The micael roller, if you look at the manufacturer's instructions, manufacturer guidelines for that roller, it states that you can roll a person while suspended, provided that the person and the rig are in constant tie back.
Okay.
So the big mistake that gets made is, and why many will default to you can't, is because the rig has to be tied back to an anchor system, and so you're almost going to have to set that up on a Y, right, where you can keep jumping the thing while you're rolling it.
Right.
And then also, technically, the safety line is not supposed to be out on the end of the rig. It's supposed to be independent.
We know that doesn't happen very often, but
I know, but technically it's supposed to be over the building, right?
Independent, completely independent.
Yeah, completely independent. So you would have to have an independent system for both the roller and an independent system for the safety line.
Okay.
Now, there are ways to rig it. You could use a Grion system with a sliding rigging plate, and you could do it as long as your anchorage was set up correctly.
Yeah.
But Mark, we know that on most buildings,
Right.
we don't have the anchorage set up correctly to do it,
No.
and so that's why you'll hear out there, you can't do it.
Right. Okay.
So they just kind of give up on the notion. But
Okay.
the appropriate answer is it comes back to manufacturer specs. Manufacturers dictate as to what they
Okay,
can do.
so, and the manufacturer generally doesn't say at what height you can roll out. If the building's set up perfectly, let's say hypothetically it's a 20-story building and you want to do, instead of doing 48 drops, you're going to do 20 drops. Okay, the manufacturer probably doesn't say over 100 feet you can't move it, correct?
I don't think there's anything in their rules or in their manufacturer guidelines that say that.
Okay. Well, it seems to me, Mike, that even if someone's been doing it safely for 20 years, to really get this education that you give and Jeffrey gives and Stefan gives into your head to defend yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Like, have you ever been called in to help defend somebody?
Yeah, I get pulled in stuff all the time. So
Yeah.
That's the it's the one thing I'm careful. I mean, you may notice that I'm careful as to what I'm saying here now, because
right.
I always joke, but I mean, I'm carrying $2 million on my mouth.
Right.
We have to carry errors and omissions insurance and general liability, professional liability, everything, because we get drug into stuff all the time. We have people following our advice. And if they go out and they follow our advice and then get hurt, that obviously can come back on us.
Right.
So that's why I'm always going to train, as I said at the beginning, I'm always going to train to the most safe. Right. Because I can't afford to have some yin yang go out there and do it. Right. Misunderstand me or anything like that, because we have to carry a lot of insurance on what we do. But yeah, court cases, yes, professional. I mean, professional witnesses, or and then I get called in a lot to help kind of defend a company that may have gotten some trouble or something with OSHA. So we try to go in and help them mitigate. But
yeah, at least you'd hope that it'd be a window cleaner or a business owner calling you, not an attorney, because that knows nothing about what you're doing and he's going to try to tell you how to get somebody out of trouble.
Yeah, I generally try to shy away unless I'm subpoenaed. I don't. I'm trying to keep I'm a window cleaner at heart. I belong to this industry. And I'm not really one that likes to get on the opposite side of it, right, where they're trying to, hurt our industry in some way. So I generally will decline those types of things unless I don't have the liberty to. Right,
exactly. So I have another off-the-cuff question. Does Mike Draper miss cleaning windows? Be honest. I mean, if you don't, none of us, we're all working owners of companies. I'm not offended if you say I don't miss it, because I say from my experience, it's like I told you when the business broker said the way for you to grow this and make it saleable and make it into something is to stop cleaning windows. I was like offended. I'm like, dude, as much as sometimes I get to a job and I don't want to put the tailgate to the truck down, I really love what I do.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, part of my, you know that I own Expert Safety Services, and I thought that I would never get back into operations, and had been given many opportunities to do so, and always declined them. Said no. This last year in November, I did get back into operations, and I'm the chief operating officer now for S&K Building Services.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm back in the game a bit, kind of at a different level. I'm not cleaning windows necessarily, but I'm around it all the time. I do. There is a great satisfaction from, just putting water and soap on glass, taking it off, and seeing an amazing result. But I think more than that, what I'm attracted to more than anything, and what keeps me in the business and keeps me here, is I love the people in our industry.
Yeah.
High-rise window cleaners are a different breed altogether. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. But they're just so, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got and I love taking somebody, that there's definitely some new mentality in the industry. It's getting more and more divided, old school versus new school, especially when it comes to high-rise. And I just love taking somebody that's has that desire, that wants to do more, and really kind of like bring them along the journey. And there's nothing more satisfying to me than that. And so to answer your question, yeah, I love it. I love the glass cleaning piece of it. I just love the industry in general. And that's why when you say, is this it for Mike Draper? Yeah, you probably, I mean, I may have some investments here and this and there, but there's one thing I think I can guarantee you all the way along. I don't think you're going to see me out of this industry. So.
Right. So if one of your children says, you know what, Mike, I really like what we've achieved here, but I'm kind of thinking I want to get into window cleaning, would that be an option?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Go for it. It's been wonderful. I mean, look, I'm just a dumb high school graduate too. I spent a little time in college, but pretty much majored in drinking and cards, and then didn't graduate. So, I feel very fortunate that I was able to raise my family. We've done better than many, with this industry, and it's I don't have any regrets being in the industry, and I know there's money still to be made in it. I know if one of my kids wanted to do it, I'd be like, yeah, let's do this thing, man. Let's do it.
Right.
So absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Swagga Wagga says SNK is there. They bought a company up by me. The guy I used to work for.
Yeah.
I see them around here and there. I know they, like everybody else, have major labor issues.
Yep.
Major labor issues. Yeah.
It's been a challenge.
They're buying stuff up everywhere, though. Somebody's got deep pockets, and they're just buying them up, man. Because I'll be honest, you under the radar. I went to dinner, and they wanted my whole company, and I couldn't do it. I said, "You want the buildings? We'll talk about." He says, "We don't buy buildings, we buy everything." I go, "What? I got a 15-year-old lift sitting in the yard. You want to buy some used rope? What are we talking about here?" And he says, "No, I want the guys." No, they've been with me through thick and thin, and my goal is to give them, if not my children, which one of my sons is working for me now, that opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the pot at the end of the rainbow looked good. You understand? But I wasn't ready for that. Because, I mean, the guy that sold it to S&K approached me to buy me out, and he says, he looks at me and he says, "Well, if I buy this from you, what are you going to do tomorrow?" I said, "I'll take the day off for at least 2 days, but I'm going to be washing windows again, my friend."
Yeah, it's an interesting marketplace out there, and we'll just see what happens. There is there's a couple different companies, they're buying up companies and buying up a lot of different industry, and so we'll see. It's a different animal altogether. It's what's going on, but it'll be interesting to see if history repeats itself, because years ago, probably more than most people will remember, there was this kind of conglomeration before. Mm-hmm. And many of the main guys that come out, they're in the industry now selling and conglomerating or consolidating their businesses into this other thing. They all splintered off of that.
Right.
And so now it's kind of like come full circle, but you've got another layer or young people that they still have desires. They still are entrepreneurs. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. It may be past again my lifetime in this business, but it was a challenge for me, and I'm again just fortunate to just have the opportunity. But I mean, I imagine that a dumb high school graduate, and the COO of a major company that's doing multi millions of dollars in window cleaning. So it's surreal. It really is. It's but I love it, and it's a different challenge now, and you get to play at a little different level. And I think as a whole for the entire industry, from what I've seen in the time I've been involved, it has grown into something, like I remember when I started cleaning windows, people were like, "What do you do?" "Well, I clean windows." What? Now it's actually being recognized, which allows companies like Petzl to actually design and build the right stuff, Yeah, it definitely evolved. There's no doubt about it. But I know you guys have a lot of listeners and stuff like that. And I remember when at the top of my game, when I still owned my company, I remember I went out and did a residential home, and I had a little thing that I did every time we got done with the residents. I called it begging for a referral. And I would basically, get done and I say, hey, Mrs. Johnson, we got everything done for you and all that. Did you have a chance to look around and all that stuff? We just want to make sure that we did a wonderful job for you. And by the way, I'm still trying to build my business. I just wonder if you know any of your friends or whatever that you might recommend us to, because I'm still trying to build the business.
Right.
And we got back in the truck, and my employee kind of chastised me and said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "You're like begging for this business, and you've got this big company."
Right.
And I was just like, "How do you think we got this big company?"
Right.
It's just important to stay grounded, stay in the grind, and just do the right thing. And it doesn't matter if you're a $25 million company or a $100,000 company. Hopefully, the industry is helping you provide for your family or do whatever it is. And that's what it's all about, man.
Well, yeah, I'm going to tell you something I told early on the podcast back when this started many, many years ago. And people found it very interesting because sometimes I guess I think out of the box. I basically build up enough work for myself and a couple people and kind of cruised at that altitude for a long time. And I was seeing all these new malls and shopping centers going up, and I wasn't in them because I was busy cleaning, And I'm like, well, I don't need it right now. I don't need the aggravation. And I said, a new high-end mall came in, and I'm like, I'm going to go in there and sit down. Like my dad would literally visit a new strip mall 3 times a day. He'd walk through, wave to people, hand out cards, touch up their windows, and they'd come out and what's this about? And he'd sell them every time. That was the way you did it back then. So I still have the account to this day, 20 years later. I picked up an optical place, was the first place ready to open, but there was like 10 other accounts around them, coming soon, and people were loading the merchandise in. And I gave him a price. It was like $20 a month for twice a month. And he's like, man, you got to do a lot of me to get a living. I go, exactly, but I'm getting my foot in the door here. And I thought about it for a minute. I walked back to my truck. I got a stack of business cards, and I handed it to him. And I said, here's what I'm going to do for you. You think the price is fair now? I want you're going to see your neighbors. You're going to meet your neighbors because they're going to be working right next door to you with their investment in the storefront. You give a card to every potential neighbor, of yours, and I will give you, if I get the job, I'm going to give you a month free. He goes, so if I pick up 12 accounts, I get a year's free window cleaning. I go, shake my hand. That guy got me the first week at least 6 accounts. Then I went to the next one and did the same thing there. Like, what is that? Tom Sawyer. I had him selling for me because everybody likes something for nothing. Next thing I know, I had enough accounts. I had 18 out of the first 20. All the other window cleaners saw I got the anchor stores, which was Whole Foods and a big movie theater. I got the Cheesecake Factory, the optical. I got everything in there to where it wasn't even worth their time to come back for the last 15 accounts. I ended up with everything over there, and they did it for me. I just had to eat those 2 or 3 for a year. Big deal. It's 20 years now. I'm still cleaning those people.
I love the grind. I do love hearing the stories of the guys starting up, because I remember how it was for me. And I like I said, I didn't have an option because I had kids at home and the mortgage was coming due in 30 days.
Yeah.
So when I quit my job, I had health insurance and a salaried job. I quit, and just failure wasn't an option. So I remember the first account I got was Panera Bread. I happened on this guy, and I got multiple accounts. And I sat down with him, all business proper and everything. And he's like, so you think you can handle all my stores? And I'm like, oh yeah, we can do it. We can do it. We got you. We got it. We can take care of it. There was no we. There was me.
Yeah, right.
But what happened is I got that account, and I would literally, I live in Bloomington, Illinois. So if you know anything about the state, we call it the Downstate 5. It's the 5 major metropolitan areas south of Chicago, and so it's Bloomington, Springfield, Peoria, Decatur, and Champaign. And so those Paneras were in all those. I would literally drive an hour to Springfield, do one Panera for I think it was $40 at the time.
Right.
And then I would bring a shirt with me. I'd clean up in the Panera bathroom, and I'd go sell. Because that was my job, was sell. And so then that route became $200,000 route at some point. And some people would look at me like, you're stupid. Why would you drive an hour
Right.
$40?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm not driving an hour for $40. I'm driving an hour for what I think I can build.
Right.
And but you just had to. But I love hearing guys that are starting out their little grind story and how they're doing it. And you get pretty ingenious when you got to make it work. That's what I love. That thing. It's like whatever it is, it's 5 rounds, or it's begging for the referral, or it's hey man, I'll give you your window cleaning if you sell me 10 more, or whatever the case is. It's just a lot of great stories coming out.
It's actually the thrill of the chase. I've just found I can speak confidently to people about anything, whether it's glass restoration or high rise or even residential to a certain extent. That's usually what sells it, is the way you address people and talk to them and give them a couple different ideas of how you're going to plan to do it. And usually it works. But I've always found if I sell one, I could sell 5 more the same day because my confidence is up. But if I get, like, nah, we're not, go. Thanks, but I told you 3 weeks ago, don't come back at my store. I might as well just go home. I'm done. Yeah, that's just me as a salesman.
I hired a guy one time because he used that very similar approach. Mark, he came in one day and I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm not really hiring." He's like, "Okay." He came back the very next day, and he said, "Hey, I just stopped in today to see if you were hiring." I said, "I just talked to you yesterday, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, but that was yesterday. Today's a different day. Are you hiring today?" And I was like, you know what, dude?
Yeah.
Get in here.
Yeah.
I just like
persistence.
the approach. I'm like, yeah, that was yesterday, but I need a job today.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
We'll find something for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a company that the guy was very old school, and I would ask him, he became somewhat of, my father had just passed, and I didn't latch on to him like a father, but he was a window cleaner that knew my dad, so I was always interested in hearing stuff I didn't know. Okay, and I would sit down with him and say, how did you get that job? I went in there 4 times. He goes, I go in until they throw me out. He goes, there's like a blood center over here, and I remember I had gone in there, 10 other people had gone in there, and he finally got the blood center, and I go, how did you get it? I go, or are we doing this for nothing? He goes, no. He goes, I walked in there, and the guy goes, oh, you're going to give me the same spiel you did last week and the week before and the week before. What's it going to take for me to tell you that I'm not interested in this? And he says, until you physically remove me or tell me, never come back, I will respect that. And finally wore the guy down. Now, those aren't always customers that are going to stay around a long time. They just want to appease you, and then they're going to boot you to the curb after you get the place cleaned up a few times. That's the human nature of someone who's not interested. But he dealt with rejection like nobody I ever know. I would have been home with my tail between my legs, watching TV, trying to forget about what just happened. But him, oh, no. Punch me in the face and kick me in the teeth, and then I'll leave. And that's the way he was.
Hey, TJ, I got a couple Petzl headlamps. You want to give them away to your listeners?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is, everybody can use one of these, right? 600 looms. Maybe power washers want to use it at night or whatever. Whatever you want to do, but I don't know how you want to give it away, but I got
How do we give that away? How do we give that away, Mark? This is Mark's month. I'm the de facto host of March. This is Mark's podcast now.
Okay.
I'm just yeah. Now, if this was April, I would totally have an idea for that.
Let's do a simple question for the first headlamp, okay? And I'm gonna say the first person in the comments to.
I got a question.
Ooh,
go ahead.
Can I ask it?
Yes.
The first person in the comments that tells me the origin country of Petzl.
Ooh, I know that.
Is the winner.
There you go.
I don't even know if I can see the comments. Can I? Or the chat?
I'm watching the comments.
Yeah, everybody's on their phone.
That's a really good question. Yeah, everyone is Googling that. First person to Google that.
I have a guess, but
I have a guess too. I think I'm pretty accurate on it, but I'm not going to say anything until you get a winner.
That's a nice. Is that 600 lumens? Is that what
Yeah,
that says?
600
dude,
lumens.
Man,
Petzl
And
is top
it's
notch
the
stuff.
hybrid model, so you can recharge it or whatever.
nice.
Take
And,
my
use
trash
battery
out.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Jeremy
We have-
Pummel said Italy.
He is wrong.
Mr.
You got
Awesome
one?
Guy said Germany.
Germany's wrong. Jeremy Pommel should know better.
How about China?
No.
Made in China, but that's not where the country is from.
Right.
Katie says Brazil.
No.
No. Man, my guess was going to be Germany, to be quite honest with you. That really sounds like a
Mine's a neighboring area of that
it's a
region.
Slavic name in nature.
France.
So
France.
Did somebody say that?
Yes.
It is Le Francais.
That's Fletcher. Fletcher just won it.
Fletcher.
He's
Okay.
a great high-rise guy.
Fletcher
Yeah.
Denning, he's a high-rise guy from Nashville.
Right.
Cool. Hey, my email is mike@expertsafetyservices.com. Shoot me your address and I'll ship it to you.
Beautiful. I thought
Did
it
you
was
hear that?
France. I thought it was.
Yeah, it was France. So the guy that the original owner or the developer of Petzl, he was, as you mentioned, Mark, he wasn't a rock climber, he was a caver.
Okay. Yeah.
Dive down into caves and all that kind of stuff, remote caves and all that stuff. So,
So-
pretty cool backstory.
Right. Now I know you're affiliated with them, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's like the whole WCR Detroit sponge and everything, and I know you're partial, but it seems to me, okay, and I've been detached from a lot of this equipment, that Petzl has actually aimed themselves at window cleaning and what we do. Is there like SMC or are there other companies that have steered into our industry?
Absolutely. And while we do, like the Petzl technical partner relationship that we have, we use Kong, we use Skylatech, which is the German company. It's funny, these are all European companies. So Kong is your Italian company,
Right.
Skylatech is your German company, Petzl is your French company. So they're all European based.
Right.
But we use a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of different products that are great products. I use the CMC clutch a lot for dissension. I love it. But the reason that we kind of align with Petzl is because they do have a complete package offering.
Okay.
And you look at some of the other companies for what we do anyway. You look at it and say, "Oh, it's a great harness, but the descender doesn't quite,
Right.
So Petzl had kind of the most complete offering for it. So that's why. But we do a lot with Kong and them too. So we like them all.
Okay. Good. That's good.
I have another headlamp. Let's give it away.
Yeah, I'm
All
okay
right.
with that.
Cool.
Yeah, do you have another question, or do you
I'm
want?
gonna let Mark ask
You're
this
gonna let
question.
Mark
The question I had, you had mentioned, it was a very simple one, the full name, complete name of your company. So give me a minute, I'll come up with something.
So while Mark's trying to figure that out, we're getting ready to close the podcast out, Michael, and I really appreciate you coming on and letting Mark interview you. The reason why me and Seth don't say a whole lot during these interviews is because me and Seth, we don't know anything about what you guys do. So I feel like the best way to have a guest like you on the show is to let you say, be able to speak frankly, and that way people know what you're all about, and in case they want to be in some kind of safety training, they know maybe Michael Draper's a fit for me, But
Yeah.
I would like to know, if you don't mind saying it, what do you like to do when you're not dealing with window cleaning, since it's all encompassing in everyone's life here? Just
Right.
about everyone watching this, me, myself, Seth, Mark, we eat, breathe, and sleep it. So what do you do when you're not doing that?
Yeah,
What's your
I'm
go-to?
a water guy.
You're a water guy, okay.
Yeah, so I have a boat. We have a pontoon boat. We have jet skis. At the house here, got in-ground pool. So we like water.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, whenever this in the summertime, we're generally on a lake. We live about 30 minutes from a lake here in Bloomington, and we're on it quite a bit. So I like that, and I love to golf.
Okay.
So between those two things, that keeps me pretty occupied.
I suck at it. I don't have the patience for it. I hate
I'm
sucking
a big
at it.
golf guy myself.
I hate sucking at it. I would love to do it, but I suck at it so bad. It's like I don't like looking that awful. Like I have no business out here with these dudes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm in the weeds. Like what am I doing out here? You know what I mean? I have these
Right.
nice pants on, these nice shoes. They're all dinged up because I'm in the weeds all the time. You know, it's like I might as well be wearing camouflage because I'm in the trees so much. You know, what am I doing?
Hey, some days I'm right there with you.
Right.
Oh man, if you don't play golf long enough and you're not in the weeds, I don't know who you are.
My dad's always told me, he's like, well, you can't get good at golf by not playing golf. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. You're gonna suck until you figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's not being in the weeds; it's how you get out of it.
Right.
It makes
True.
the difference between golfers. Do you give up? Or?
Yeah. Right.
Hey,
I give
it's
up.
right back at you guys for just having me on. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you guys tonight, and so
This has been like I
appreciate-
told you when the show started. That you're like one of the dudes we had on our list of people that we've wanted to have on the show for a long time. You know, and this was Mark's idea. He's like, nobody does anything about high rise. Nobody talks about it. It's kind of like a thing that kind of gets glazed over. You know what I mean? And especially, I mean, as far as social media is concerned and stuff like that, you don't see it. High rise guys, like you said, are a different breed. They're not on the internet talking about none of this. They're out there
Right.
doing it. You know what I mean? They ain't got time to do their thing. You know what I mean?
Well, the one thing that's very refreshing, I will say that in speaking with the 4 guests that we've had on, I see the same passion, whether they're cleaning windows or keeping people safe. And I love that because you don't see that passion in route work guys anymore. You don't see it as much in residential. I mean, just my observation. You know what I'm saying? That it is a different breed. Okay, but and again, just like I've said before, I wish guys like you and Jeffrey were around when I learned. Thankfully I'm here and I learned from a very good high-rise guy, but it's such a benefit to the industry what you guys are doing.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm glad. I wasn't trained right either, man. I was trained on a half harness with a Jumar for a safety backup, and
Right.
I applaud and I think the world of Jeff for really pioneering and pushing, even if it wasn't the right time, just pushing the agenda so that some people like myself and some others were like, hey, he's right.
Right.
We need to thwart this forward. So.
Okay. So, and anyone, I'm at a blank for a question. So, Mike, if you don't have one, I'm gonna ask this. Before Mike started Expert Safety Service, what business did he run? Goes back to the beginning of the podcast. What was his job between window cleaning and Expert Safety Service? What did he do for the window cleaning industry? It is window cleaning related. See if that gets anything.
I don't even remember.
I
Wait, I know now.
I don't even remember what I did.
I know now.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember
Oops.
now, so I'm a little slow. It's just-
That was an hour ago.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't seem like
There.
a long time ago, but it is.
Chris Salazar says Window Magazine. What window magazine? Have you ever boated on Lake Shelbyville, Mike? That's a question for you.
No, I haven't. I want to take that one in one of these days, but I haven't been on Shelbyville.
Do you fish or you just boat?
No, just boat.
Chris
If
Salazar,
Mike-
we're looking for a little more information.
If Mike Nichols was here, he'd be super disappointed that you're on a boat and not fishing. Just
I
so
know. I see that.
not pulling up these monster catfish.
Yeah.
I think Mike Nichols could just swim around and catch
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
Being honest.
We're only one person away on our list of cool dudes to have on. At least as far as I'm concerned, Todd Ford is the only guy left now. We've had everybody on that we were like, man, please come on, dude.
Okay,
You know what I
Chris
mean?
Salazar. Chris Salazar got it. American window cleaner.
Very
There you
nice,
go.
Chris. Mike at expertsafetyservices.com, and give me your address, buddy, and I'll fire that right off to you.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, that Petzl gear if you're going to,
You're gonna have
purchase
that
it-
forever, just so you
right?
know. That's
You're gonna lose it before you break
Yeah,
it. But I
yeah.
will tell you
That or your grandkids are
Yeah.
gonna be using it. One of the two.
Right. The Petzl's very smart because they love their anodizing. Their stuff is eye appealing. Their harnesses are
I have a Petzl safety harness.
right. And I can tell you, I've never
For
seen
lifts.
that headlamp, but that's rechargeable. You don't have to worry about batteries, and that is probably the bee's knees.
Yeah. Now they'll enjoy them, I think.
Should have
So.
gave that to Jason so he could maybe possibly spot Bigfoot.
You should give it to Jacob Williams so he could find his computer.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to say, Michael, it was a pleasure to have you. I really respect you. I loved spending time with you. I know I can call you if I ever have any questions. Ask probably any of these people that just have a question about something. I'm sure you'll be happy to steer them in the right way. All of the High Rise guys, that came on and spent this month with us, and of course Jeffrey Scott. We really appreciate you coming out. And Mike, we're going to do this once a year. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to have you back.
Hey, yeah, man, put me on.
Come back next March and talk high rise with us in safety.
Right.
Yeah, put me on the list. I'd love to. It's been my pleasure to be on with you guys tonight. And Mark, I'll next time I'm in South Florida, buddy, we're gonna have to do that.
Yes. I won't play golf with you, but we'll do dinner or something.
All right.
Well, everybody, really appreciate everybody watching tonight, and again, thank Mike for coming on.
Yes.
Don't forget that we're gonna end the month with the return of Steve Zero.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Steve Zero. I mean Steve O, but I think Steve Zero is way cooler than Steve O.
I think so too. I like that too.
I think
And
you
now
should just run with it. Just run with
see how
Steve
married
Zero.
life-
Just run
We're
with
going to
Steve.
see how married life has changed him.
Yeah, yeah, right. I'm sure it's all different for him now.
Right.
But thanks again, everyone, for watching, and
Yes.
we'll be back next week. And see you later, Michael. Thank
Yes.
you.
Hey, thank you so much.
See ya.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Bye-bye now.